Honorable, and to our audiences as well. When we talk about tourism, especially talking about digitalization, tourism is one sector that does not have borders. Tourism is one sector that does not require a visa. Tourism, we're discussing this morning with our colleagues to say there is no other sector under the sky that glues people together, that brings people together, that brings a smile to that old lady and selling her stuff. So when it comes to, we want to go to the extent of saying, look, the visa regimes, which, by the way, it's one of the challenges that we have. As I was coming to, I was at the airport, OR, and when I was about to board, I was requested that, no, you must have a visa to go to Kenya. I said, no, I've been coming here, and we never had those challenges. But the beauty part of it, they said, okay, that's fine. We can assist you to process your visa in a few minutes' time, which they did. And when the president made an undertaking that we are going to actually Kenya to erase some of these predicaments that are a challenge within the tourism space, it was good news indeed. But we want to see us walking the talk, making sure that we erase. Yes, it has assisted us quite a lot, especially within the tourism space, to say you are able to do your visa online. And at times we do have nations who are actually affording us to have visa upon arrival. So it is imperative to appreciate the technology that has actually enhanced our recovery system, especially after the COVID-19. As Africa, we have learned to appreciate. My colleague was talking about the MasterCard. Actually, I was saying the MoneyGram business, which is a multi-billion industry, where you are able here in Kenya using, is it M-Pesa, to send money, where our diasporans, they have made it easier and said it's all about appreciating the invent of our technologies.
Thank you very much. And actually, that is a good segue for me to ask, Frank, you have heard that the government is doing what they need to do. They're putting the policies in place. Cuthbert is at the airport being asked for a visa. He's saying no, he's being assisted. Now, is the private sector ready to take up this opportunity? Is it business as normal, or do you also have to now innovate to try and understand what this new potential world of tourism could look like?
No, thank you so much, Andy. Good morning, everyone. I'm so happy to be here. Definitely, technology is everything we're doing today. We're really living in a better era than before. And when we talk about technology and enhancing really the industry, the tourism industry, and also speaking from a larger point of view of the meetings industry, we're seeing how technology has changed everything in terms of accessing information. Today, when you're getting up and you're deciding where you want to travel, the first access you're going to have is online platform. You're checking your accommodation through booking.com or through Expedia or other platform. And with that access to information, you're able to make decisions, but you're also able to compare prices. And so it's really a challenge that has been given to us, that we need to move faster, we need to be adaptable, and that's where the private sector comes in terms of positioning yourself, in terms of highlighting your offerings and your products so that you're out there. There's so many millions out there on the platforms checking on what you have. So it's quite important that you're able to really take advantage of technology, get to understand the world, the whole world is looking at what we have, but you're also able to position yourself at the forefront. So absolutely yes, private sector needs to actually move faster than the technology, given that we're seeing what it has changed the landscape.
And I think then that's very interesting because it ties into what Sharia was talking about how companies like MasterCard, who pay me, so let me mention their name, so I have to say it. So companies like MasterCard are able to help merchants, help consumers actually make that link and pay. My question is to Namolisa, you sit at a very interesting point where you're able to see both government, private sector coming together, and you're able to then make that connection between the merchants, between the users. Are you helping Frank with how he should be facing and positioning his business? Are you helping him with data? How are you helping him understand the preference of Sharia's in-laws to what they want to see and how he can harness that?
Thank you, and good morning, everybody. So data, to me, is the key core mover, shaker of making tourism what it is today. As MasterCard, from where I sit, I look at it from a holistic point of view, where I start from a country's perspective. How do I support a country who we are talking about open borders, we are talking about tourism being the ecosystem for everything, but ultimately each country wants to own its own tourists. How do we make Kenya competitive to its neighbors? And we are attracting all those tourists across borders. We are attracting those nomadic tourists to come into the country. So how do we support Kenya to get that number in, the 5 million that it's looking for? So data is where we come into play. And how does that data support KTB, whose role is to drive those numbers into the country? We ensure that KTB is able to identify the tourist at the right time, at the right place, and be able to communicate to them adequately by talking enough about this individual and ensuring that KTB is able to develop communication, targeted communication actually, to attract them by providing the right information. Now, I'm sure you're going to ask me immediately, are we selling data? And the answer is no. The data is anonymized. So now that I've heard from a person like Sharia that his in-laws were looking to come into Kenya, we will start to profile that person and say, where is this person? Where does he shop in his country? What does he buy? And how do we start getting targeted communication to them from the country and also from the private sector? So tomorrow, I'm very sure you'll see Sharia getting a pop-up somewhere saying Kenya Airways has a 20% offer, just to start attracting them and giving them that vibe to come into the country. So the data is really, really important to gather insights to help you make the decisions that you need to make to attract that tourist into the country.
Thank you so much, Namolisa. That makes a lot of sense. But I think then my question that I have for Charles is, we are talking about digital tourism a lot. Namolisa's talked about the benefits and the opportunity around using data. But surely, if we were already in heaven, it sure feels like we're still on earth. So what are the obstacles that businesses are actually facing to take these digital means and this innovation?
Well, thank you, George. My name is Charles Mbugwa. And it's a good question you've asked, but allow me to first say that the current times we are living, we are revolving around three things. You're living, you're working, and you want to play. And ideally, and even maybe before COVID, people used to link tourism to the last bit of play. But nowadays, tourism is in living, it is in working, and it is in playing. And what does it mean then from myself from a financial perspective? And considering what the president mentioned yesterday on nomadist tourists, transit visas, the question that begs is this: of the traffic that we have in our airports as a result of layovers, what business opportunities exist? And then, as a result of these business opportunities that exist, how then do the private sector get to plug in and tap into these opportunities? we would count and say maybe we have 13 hours layover on average, maybe per day. How is it then that we can be able to broadcast this information to these very people so that then they can move out? If you're maybe en route to Ethiopia, how then can we use your 4 or 5 hour? Can you be able to get to our CBD? Are you able to go there to an entertainment joint if it's in the evening? And there are massive business opportunities. But then again, there needs to be initiatives from ourselves, Kenya Tourism Board, of putting that information up there so that then our businesses, and including us as private sector, trying to sell these opportunities, to showcase that we are able to host, to be able to entertain, because at the end of it all, when people are leaving, you must be able to show where does tourism then plug in. Are you giving them the services that they would require? Are they happy? And the challenges that we face, coming to your question, is that yes, the support that comes from government, but is the private sector ready for the opportunities that are coming on board? How have you packaged yourself technologically? How are you driving your messaging, you know? And I'm glad that we now have agencies that are you are able to get into one portal, you are able to pick your travel destination, you are able to pick whether it is the mode of transport you will use, all under one package. While that has been harmonized in trying to ensure that you can be able to get that in one port, and you can also be able to sell yourself through social media platforms, but then there is a lot of effort, and including capacity building, because most of our organizations will agree that we may not have the capacity that is required to drive.
The biggest consideration we have to take into account when we are using data is actually privacy. We have to be respectful to the users. We have to be respectful to the laws that govern countries, and understand that much as we want to use that data, we need to be careful and cognizant of how much information we are releasing. So the biggest consideration is privacy. So anytime we are giving data or using data or analyzing data, and we do that in Africa a lot. We are doing it in Kenya, in partnership with KTB, in Tanzania, in Southern Africa, in Morocco, all over the continent. We are working with tourism boards to provide them with data. But what we make sure that we do to them is make sure it's anonymized. We make sure that we are protecting identity. We would never disclose the identity of anyone. And just ensuring that at any given time, as we are providing what we need to grow, that we're not breaking any of the ethical boundaries that are available.
And thank you for watching. I'll catch you guys.
Thank you very much. And I think privacy is one of the key things and one of the top things that people are worried about when it comes to data use. But especially, we then think about the younger generation, the Gen Zs. They're also thinking more about things like the environment and the impact on that.
Proper policies to be crafted that will enhance and assist the objectives of the private sector. So I think it's imperative that our policymakers and the private sector should be able to work together in harmony so that we drive this beautiful agenda, especially looking at the tourism sector, which, by the way, it is the only sector that can bring innovative. It is the only sector that will assist us. When you look at coming from the COVID-19 and so forth, where it's one sector that reacts on any shocks that comes on our direction. But as African Tourism Board, we have noted that we can drive economies, we can drive sustainability through tourism. Yes, when we look at a few weeks ago in South Africa, where we had snow for the first time in Durban, it's one of the regions, where it's warm. During winter, you can even go to this. I have always maintained that when we talk about technology, we cannot do without technology. As I'm looking at my friend who is taking a nice shot there on his camera, and even worse, when we were driving, coming back from the hotel, and the vehicle that took us here, it's technology. And your little borders, the way they maneuver, it's all about technology. We cannot do with it. We need to appreciate and make sure that it is actually something that will assist our mother nature so that we don't experience the challenges. When we talk about climate change, also in the technology sector, we have said it's so amazing when you look at the global community. They look the continent of Africa as one of the undeveloped, still trying to maneuver their way. And we have said when we talk about climate change, that affects one part of the continent. But what are they doing? They are busy using Africa as a burial ground where we are so excited to get cars from Japan, get cars from Africa that have actually reached their lifespan. What do? You are shifting a challenge, a problem that you cannot in America, but you're bringing it here in Africa, and it affects the global community. So we need to appreciate, and also let us make sure that it does not, we don't use it to disadvantage the next generations to come.
Yeah, that is a real rallying call. And, I want us to get to the questions part, but before I do, I want to just hear one more round from everyone here. If the audience will indulge me, could I have one volunteer, please? Just one brave soul. I beg you, don't leave me embarrassed. One person. I'm looking at you, sir. Thank you very much. That is great. Please give him a round of applause, please. Welcome. So, what's your name, sir?
Chris Marder.
Good to meet you, Chris. Chris, please welcome. So, for my panelists here, I want you to think of Chris as President Ruto. He's sitting here, and you have a chance to talk to him for 30 seconds. I hope that is not illegal to start calling somebody else president. If it is, whoops, yeah. So I want you to think that Chris is the president of Kenya. And if we can go around and have this one, if you have 30 seconds, either to tell the president how technology is going to help him reach his goal of 5 million tourists in Kenya, or what you need to help him get to the 5 million. So I will just start from there. So Charles, I'll ask you to start, and we can go around. Just 30 or 40 seconds, please.
So thank you, George, and maybe to the President of the Republic, not to mention the country. I think it is key. Right now, the greatest concern that affects tourism is climate change. We happen to face the dire consequences of climate change. And unfortunately, much of what has caused the climate change is happening elsewhere. With AI setting a direction as to where tourists will be headed, and if Africa is going to face the dire or adverse effects of climate change, it then means the traffic will not be to Africa, but to other continents that have adapted and mitigated the effects of climate change. So it is incumbent upon the nation to try as much as possible to use technology, data-driven technology, to look at what are the weather events in the next 3-5 years. If you're able to make get such insights from our own data, and of course data that is looking back into the past, then you can be able to informally be able to build up on your mitigating factors to help us control any dire effects of climate change. So for me, climate change is the next big thing that is going to bring businesses down, and there are serious heavy losses in terms of stranded assets, effects that we could never have a comeback, washed away bridges, and the effects of trying to bring us back to normal are heavy. And like I would appreciate what was said, is that the industry that faces the greatest shock when it comes to any adverse effects is the tourism sector. So climate change for me is a priority, Mr. President.
Thank you very much. Perfect.
No, I think that's a very good one. I think to Mr. President, I think my really request would be education. I'm looking at the audience we have here. We have a lot of youth in this room, and in order for us really to get better in everything we're doing, we need to be educated and informed. And I do believe that the sector still has challenges, not only here in this country, but also across the continent. And I do believe that with the right partnerships, on e-learning platforms, how do we ensure that we avail those courses to the young people in this room to be able to get to know the industry and be able to create experiences we're looking for and be able to sell the products and sell the countries and the services. So I think really for me, my appeal would be education and the opening up partnerships with the right institutions. I did mention earlier my organization, ICA has a huge platform and has invested in education e-learning, where we have skills that are available online and you can attend them from where you are. And that's why we want to improve knowledge so that we can be able to improve what we're doing and be able to contribute to the economic development of our countries.
Thank you.
Mr. President, Africa is a half-opened cane. At the bottom, it's full of all jewels you might think of. There is no continent that can surpass what we have, even our diversity in our culture. Let's talk about Kenya, your beautiful land. You have so much to offer. You have so much to tell the world. Unfortunately, our stories have been told by somebody who is sitting in another planet, who has nothing to do with what's happening in Kenya. I want to plead with you, let's tell our own story. May we use tourism as a vehicle, as a tool to drive our economies. Can we use tourism to tell the world who we are? It is time for Africa to rise up. Therefore, in your capacity as the custodian of this beautiful land, Mr. President, please work with the public sector, the private sector. We are here to drive your agenda with the best intention to make sure that our communities are developed. So the onus is up to us. Let us teach from the primary level. Let's teach, let's make it mandatory that tourism must be a subject. Therefore, you'll be creating brand ambassadors of this beautiful continent. I want to plead with you, and I want to thank you, Mr. President, because you are going to take these concerns serious. Let's tell our narrative. Let's tell our own story as Africans, and proudly let us dismantle over and above the dependency syndrome, where we think that the best comes from Europe, where we think that the best comes from Asia. This is the continent. This is where our umbilical cord is embedded. We want to drive our own agenda the way we want to do it, not because we are influenced by any other forces. So I want you, Mr. President, to lead us to the better Canaan land. God has adorned this beautiful country with so much that we can enjoy, and the next generations enjoy what God has given us. Let us plow back and make sure that it is for the benefit of this beautiful country, and it will overflow to the next region. It will overflow to the rest of the African continent. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Cuthbert. Now, Melissa?
Now that I know it was a presidential request, I wish it was also a Madam President standing here with me. But that said, Mr. President, with all due respect, you have heard from colleagues what we need in terms of private sector support, public sector support, looking after the environment for us to have a better place. But what I besiege and plead of you is to create an enabling environment in the country so that tourists can have a wonderful experience, a priceless experience when they come into the country. We are competing with the 54 countries in the continent, and globally we are also competing. How do we make Kenya the destination of choice? And for that, I'm going to request that in your creating an enabling environment, consider supporting SMEs. Consider making them the part of the journey that makes tourism attractive. And what do I mean? Let payments be available through them. Create an environment where they have the support, the education, the opportunity to have cashless payments end-to-end. Enable and grow those SMEs because they are the core of economic empowerment in this country. You'll be addressing the needs of women for employment, youth in employment, and generally you'll be driving economic growth for our country. So look at that sector and ensure that they are empowered to be able to serve any tourist walking in this country. Let them be able to pay cashlessly in an Uber through different channels. Let them be able to walk into Masai Market and pay those women making the beadwork, selling the kikois. Let them be able to pay in a cashless way. And for that to happen, educate the SME and provide them with an environment where they can provide this payment and cashless solutions. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you very much, panelists. Chris, we really appreciate that. Thank you so much for standing in. No comments? Now that would be treason. Thank you. I think the beauty of what has just happened here is that in yesteryear, you would have position papers or white papers given in long 100 pages. I think if my request to KTB leadership, if we can get that segment just packaged, those 2 minutes, because this is where the experts of the industry are actually proposing very amazing things. And please then, KTB, we ask that you continue to work with us to make sure that that is taken up. So now, we have question time. I don't think we have that much time. Nobody has started doing this to me. But I know that we only have about 5 more minutes. Any questions from anybody? Wait, back there. Oh, yes, there are 2 questions. So,
good afternoon, our panelists and our listeners. My name is Angela Washera. I'm a student currently doing my project based on tourism technology and how it impacts tourism. And I'm also in the sector as a tour operator. So my question comes from this. International visitors come from the global north. Recently, and what has been going on in the news, we know that the problems of climate change are also coming from the global north. And statistically, a good percentage of visitors we receive come from the global north. So one of the questions is, how do we politely tell them that, yes, you are impacting our climate? We are looking at you to promote our continent through.
give me another.
Sorry, I hope you got the first part. So how do we politely tell these people from the global north, the visitors that you're expecting, the biggest percentage of our visitors from our data that, hey, you people, you are impacting our climate. We are expecting you as our visitors, to boost economic tourism in this country. And also, my second question is, what are we doing as African leaders, as KTB and other regional tourism boards, to encourage regional and domestic tourism? And the third question is, how do we empower the continents towards sustainability and independence so that we don't depend so much from the north? Thank you.
Some more questions.
There was another question. There was a hand up here.
Good morning. My name is Cynthia. I'm a student from Kenyatta University. My question goes directly to Honorable Sifiwe from ATB. You say to the President that you want us to tell our own story. From the harnessing of technology, I did not hear any of you talking about our culture. Our culture is being eroded by technology because no one is trying to promote it through technology. For example, Kenya. We are only focusing on the Maasai culture. We have diverse cultures in Kenya which have not yet been tapped to. So how do all you panelists think we can work towards projecting, harnessing technology towards other cultures in Kenya? Thank you.
Then we have one.
Thank you, panelists. My name is Geoffrey. I have one question on harnessing technology. One of the panelists said ethical considerations is one of the key things when we are harnessing technology. So there's one example whereby the wife of a friend of mine took his ATM to the store just to buy some, few things for the house. And that was totally okay. It's just that she didn't have the password or the PIN number. But with contactless payment, she was able to pay for those commodities. And the gentleman nearly had a heart attack when he woke up and found a text message saying X amount has been withdrawn or has been, has gone to pay for certain commodities. So how do such things happen when we are talking about harnessing technology? What is the line is very blurry, and how do you overcome those? Thank you.
Should we have one more and then
We have two more, one there and one here.
I want to thank the panelists. My name is John. When we talk about tourism, you realize in Africa, something to do with culture and art has been neglected for some time, as has not been a focus for tourism. Now, if you look around for the young generation, we are diverting and running away from our culture. You can tell it from the names that we are naming our kids as of now. There's no family name. You find both names are either Swahili or English. It's an indication that we are diverting and neglecting our culture. What is it that we are doing as governments to keep and enhance the cultural and art tourism?
Where was the other?
Well, thank you to our panelists. My name is Evelyn Karuma from Friends of Nairobi National Park. For me, it's not a question, but a challenge to all the industry players, because we see that once we talk about technology, we have to talk about AI. So as KTB, like for instance, I'll give a case in Nairobi National Park. What if we incorporated AI in our websites such that the tourists won't have to search where is the picnic site, what are the picnic sites at Nairobi National Parks, because they can be able to see what is the difference between these picnic sites, and not just within Nairobi National Park, even in Masai Mara, where can we go? Like AI to be in our websites, even in KTB for quick access, because there are blogs for this, but it's too much work. So let's incorporate AI in that. Thank you.
Thank you very much, everyone, for all of those questions. So now, just to make it easier for the panelists, maybe I can just bunch them together. So we'll start with you, Cuthbert, where there were two questions that I think were towards you. The first one is, how do we ensure that the global north, while promoting African tourism, is also understanding that they may have a role to play in the potential negative impacts, especially to the environment and other things? The second question to you, and I think I'm going to combine the two questions, it's on culture. How can we use technology to make sure that we are still embracing our culture, and in fact, that we are promoting our culture in Africa?
Thank you so much. We have been enslaved for so long. One of our colleagues indicated that you're talking about 54 member states competing. And I can even go beyond that. You've got more than 200 tourism boards across the continent who are even competing amongst themselves instead of complementing one another. Africa, these are low-hanging fruits that we have. We don't have to invent anything. Where Africa can benefit more in our diversity, especially when you talk about our culture. We have been stereotyped, to the extent that when I'm sitting on a panel, I need to be on a tie and suit. Unfortunately, we had a challenge, like I indicated, of storms in Durban. It was extremely cold. So I could not come with my cultural attire, which is a Zulu attire. I'm so proud of that. So we have been told that Africa, there is nothing superior that comes from us. So the onus is up to us to stop competing among ourselves, to complement what Kenya does, South Africa doesn't have. At one stage, one gentleman said, no, that's fine. There is, Table Mountain, right? It's just as good as Mount Kilimanjaro. So we have this spirit of competing amongst ourselves. So it must start with us now. To be proud on who we are, we need to know our identity as Africans. We have been living under the shadow of somebody who said, no, with your dark skin, you are not so beautiful. With your dark skin, you are not so handsome. It is time to tell the world. That's why the emphasis is to say, as Africa, let's tell our own story. As Africa, let's be authentic on who we are and drive the agenda of tourism. International visitors, remember, Africa is not an isolated continent. We are part of the global community. As much as they actually undermine the power that we have, we are part of them. So it is important for us to stand and claim our space. No one should actually guide us to do that. The onus is up to us. So we need to proudly present our cultural and present. In the garden, you see white roses, green roses, yellow roses, that actually add the aroma in your garden. That's what God did in Africa. We need to be able to work together and complement one another. And we need to appreciate our international visitors. By the way, they should come in as a complementary in our economies. When you look at our GDP and the figures, the data, the statistics that is being fed to us through the UNWTO, at times it does not talk about the reality in Africa. It is time for us to support even the African Union, universities, to develop our own data that are developed by us in Africa so that we appreciate. Africa has so much. We have so much to explore, and we have so much. We need to break the divide that has separated us as nations so that the emphasis should be the domestic appreciation. Once we appreciate one another in Africa, where Namibia starts flocking to Nairobi, where Nairobi, Kenya start flocking to Zimbabwe, and the international will just come in as a complement. So we need to appreciate our equally so that we push our agenda and stop competing among us ourselves. And also, we are the custodians. Let us be brand ambassadors of our destinations. Sell yourself. We are an ambassador. You represent your destination. What is it that you want your destination to be portrayed? It must start with you, the owners. It's up to us as individuals so that we develop a beautiful continent.
Thank you very much, Cuthbert. I think we can give him a round of applause for that. Time. So, do we have 2 more minutes? 1 more minute. Okay, so just quickly then, let me just move to Namolisa. Namolisa, you were asked a question about the security of contactless and how we can boost our domestic tourism.
On the question of contactless payments, technology must evolve. We can't continue paying the way we normally pay. And the introduction of contactless payments is as a result of us wanting to pay faster without any questions. But how do we protect those contactless payments? Is that there are securities around that payment. Transactions, I believe, do not go beyond 5,000 shillings, and this is approved by the central bank. So it's no one person makes its own rules and regulations, and those are the controls that are put around contactless payments. But I just pose one question back to you. Why did your friend have an issue with his wife buying groceries for 5,000 shillings? It should have been okay, right? But generally speaking, there are rules that govern that. So in any one time, you always be protected by the amount that you're able to spend on that card. When it comes to domestic tourism, I believe that just like as he said, we need to be proud of our own destinations. I come from Webuye, where we used to have a beautiful, beautiful waterfall called Broderick Falls. Now, for the life of me and anyone who's a Luya knows, it is very difficult to say Broderick in Kibukusu. So now it has been changed to Nabuyole Falls. And that becomes a little bit more logical to the people on the ground and a lot more attractive to them. And that is visited a lot. And I, for one, really promote tourism sites in Webuye and in Bungoma County as a whole, because that's where I'm from, and that is the little that I can do. So how do we all take ownership and responsibility of what is available to us to boost that tourism? And those are individual goals and roles and ambitions that we should have. But at the same time, governments then also need to support those initiatives by communicating what is available locally and to the people on the ground and to the residents of those countries, providing them with easy access, opportunities, free days, discounts. I think we recently had a discount for the national parks on World Tourism Day. So things like that. Let all these attractions be accessible to the locals. Thank you.
Thank you.
This is a very interesting question. So even for this ring, for example, when the concern comes, okay, what if somebody takes this ring and what happens? So you see, this is the interesting thing is that this ring it doesn't have your card number or anything written here. Yeah, it is simply a chip inside, which you control with your phone. And anytime it gets used, again, like Namolisa rightly mentioned, it is below limit of 4,500 or 5,000. And secondly, it generates an SMS alert that you get immediately as soon as you do a transaction. I can block, delete, load, unload money on this ring and off this ring. So when we are designing solutions, we are getting the best security experts globally and locally who look at the cultural nuances of Kenya and East African markets, and then we say, okay, let's design the solution which gives us better trust and confidence. Yeah.
Thank you, Sharia. Thank you, Namulisa. So may I request that, Evelyn, that you please make sure that you manage to talk to our two panelists there at the end, because they are the right ones to answer about if we're effectively using AI in all our websites and all the potential domains. Let me just say a big thank you to all these brilliant panelists. I think you'll agree they did a really good job. Let's give them one round of applause and thank you all.
Thank you very much. Let's give them a round of applause, please. And I'd like to invite you to the front here. We take a group photo. And as we do that, I'd like to now request that the second group prepare to come on stage. Dr. Ruth, please be ready. Mr. Ali, please join. Thank you very much. Thank you. Let's give them a round of applause as they exit the stage. I know you've sat down for some time, so I'd request that we all stand up, just briefly, say hi to your neighbor, while the next group comes on stage. DJ, put some music, let these guys shake a little bit. Shake your bodies a little bit before we proceed on to the next session. Dr. Ruth? We now proceed on to the next seminar. And ladies and gentlemen, put your hands together for Dr. Ruth as she takes us to the next session. Karibu.
Ladies and gentlemen, good morning. Good morning once again. Why are we looking so dull? Ama hatujakunywa chai? We need to take tea. I will do after this. Okay. As I've been introduced, I'm Dr. Ruth Kimaiga, Head of Planning and Strategy, Tourism Regulatory Authority. And it's a pleasure to take you through this second session of our seminar today, being day one. And to start off, we are going to have a keynote speech from the Director General, Tourism Regulatory Authority, that is Mr. Norbert Talam. However, before he comes, I would wish to give some information about Mr. Norbert Talam. Currently, he is the Director General of Tourism Regulatory Authority. He is a finance executive with over 20 years experience and impressive track record in implementing high-impact growth strategies, robust internal controls, and efficient reporting systems. Prior to joining the Tourism Regulatory Authority, Norbert served as the Chief Executive Officer and the Company Secretary and Head of Finance at the First Community Bank in Kenya for over 10 years. He also served in finance departments at various banks such as KREP Bank, which is currently CDN, Kenya Airways, and Safari. Norbert is a member of the Institute of Public Accountants of Kenya, ISPAC, and the Institute of Public Secretaries of Kenya. At TRA, he has had a very impressive record, and he has managed to introduce, among others, the accreditation system or the accreditation scheme of tourism and hospitality establishments in Kenya in conformity with quality standards in the tourism sector. He has also initiated the second phase of classification and star rating of accommodation and catering establishments. And he has also been able to automate the services at the regulator. And that is why, for those who have interacted with the regulator, we have gone E. Everything is done online. And all this, we owe it to this wonderful man, Mr. Norbert Talam, the Director General of Tourism Regulatory Authority. Let us put our hands together for the Director General of Tourism Regulatory Authority, Mr. Norbert Talam. Karibu sana. So he's going to give a keynote speech on regulating short-term rentals to enhance destination quality. Karibu sana, Mr. Talam.
Thank you very much, Dr. Ruth Kimaiga. I want to start off by have been introduced, so thank you very much for turning up for this very important activity, Magical Kenya Travel Expo 2024. So I want to start off, and I will start by reading a speech, and then later on I will take one or two questions before we conclude. So, ladies and gentlemen, it is with great honor and pleasure to speak to you today during this African Fair, the Magical Kenya Travel Expo 2024. It is indeed an excellent opportunity to not only share experience and ideas, but also as an avenue to network and ignite new collaborations and partnership. To propel our aspirations as contained in the East Africa Community Vision 2050, which prioritizes joint intervention in tourism products that are competitively priced and cost-effective and have high return on investment. Ladies and gentlemen, allow me to address this issue of short-term accommodations in tourism sector, which has come as one of the thorny issues on matter safety and security of our guests, thus affecting destination quality. As such, what Kenyans call or what Kenyans refer loosely as Airbnb is technically a general term for furnished residential units which could be operating in any name and size. The World Travel and Tourism Council, WTTC 2022, in their issue of best practices for short-term rentals, noted that the rise of short-term rentals have not only expanded the tourism sector, the sector's ability to welcome and host travelers through empowering of people to use their homes to earn extra income, but they have also expanded participation in tourism, increased quantity and distribution of available accommodations, and offered a new and different value proposition for travelers. Ladies and gentlemen, I must note that the rampant growth in short-term accommodation, particularly through the online platform such as Airbnb, Booking.com, Expedia, among others, have undoubtedly contributed to the growth of the real estate sector in the country, although short-term accommodations have been touted as better option compared to conventional accommodation facilities, depending on the nature of travel, their acceptances and growth have come with a fair share of challenges, more specifically on matters safety and security of guests. For instance, in the recent past, the country has witnessed a surge in reported killings or murder incidences propelled by ease of booking of these accommodation facilities without providing any personal information or providing false information. As such, security lapses have led to an influx of unauthorized residents into the neighborhoods, which continues to pose a significant security threat to one's peaceful dwellings. Ladies and gentlemen, although short-term rentals is providing an avenue for Kenyans to earn extra shilling in these challenging economic times, the various security concerns they have brought, the concerns they bring cannot be overlooked. As such, short-term accommodation facilities can provide a safe haven for criminals, as you are aware, who may rent them and scam people, while other investors may turn these short-term rentals into brothels, which may not only drive residents away from one's peaceful neighborhoods, but also lead to erosion of our rich cultural values, ethics, and norms, which we are trying so hard to protect in line with this year's theme of Africa, rich cultural and natural heritage for sustainable and inclusive tourism. Ladies and gentlemen, in view of the foregoing challenges, Tourism Regulatory Authority is implementing the following strategies that will ensure effective and efficient regulations of short-term rentals in the country. Most of these strategies are borrowed from the best practices globally, which with success stories under guidance of World Travel and Tourism Council, Best Practices Handbook. The authority, one of those strategies is that authority has automated its licensing process that requires all operators of regulated tourism enterprises or activities and services to register online to acquire operating license. Two is that short-term rentals are accommodation facilities classified under Class A or under Class A of the 9th Schedule of the Tourism Act 2011 and are equally required to register and be regulated in their operations. The authority is also exploring avenues of signing a memorandum of understanding between the platform owners such as Airbnb, Booking.com, Expedia, etc. to ensure that no unregistered and unlicensed short-term rentals that are allowed to display or sell their wares through their platform. I will also want to put across a point that the authority is developing the minimum standards for short-term rentals, which will guide the operators of these type of facilities on matters quality, required to sign and adhere to a code of conduct, for short-term rentals to promote peer regulations, thus complementing government-led regulations. The authority is also partnering with the short-term rentals digital platforms on data collection to keep track and manage the short-term rentals activities in the tourism sector. The authority is applying smart taxation. I am glad to inform you that the authority has listened to the plea of the short-term rental operators during public participation in the draft Tourism Enterprise Regulations 2024, which was concluded in May 2024. The strategy on digital registration of short-term rentals has worked perfectly well in our destination, around the globe, as well as also Kenya as a destination, and such a destination as Sydney, North Carolina, through implementation of comprehensive short-term rentals system. As a country, we are therefore not reinventing the wheel, but borrowing from the best practices globally, and it is our utmost belief that Kenya will also be reporting its success story on matters regulation of short-term rentals through digital registration very soon. Ladies and gentlemen, I wish to assure you of our commitment as the regulator in the tourism sector to bring all the tourism enterprises and activities or services into the regulatory framework and to enhance destination quality and to continue to live true to our motto, which is championing quality and excellence. Thank you very much. God bless MKTE. God bless the tourism sector in Kenya and global, and God bless Kenya. Asanteni sana.
Round of applause again for the Director General. You see the regulator. The regulator is the regulator, isn't it? We are the standards people. Hakuna kucheka na mtu. Tuko pamoja. And I think because he's leaving to other engagements, we would like to take just a few questions, maybe like 5 minutes, then we can allow him to leave. So kindly, maybe anybody who has a question. I need an usher to take the mic. Anybody with a question? Yes, we have one there.
Good afternoon. Use plastics in the hospitality industry here?
What we are doing about it as a regulator? Yes, okay, thank you. Any other question? Yes, from there.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Patrick. My question to the Director General, TRA, is now that the regulations that the TRA, they are in charge of the star rating, standardization in the industry, what are the current development in the threat of the climate change in terms of the regulations that maybe the rating between the star rating in terms of the standards of the accommodations or the hospitality services? Thank you.
Any other? We can take one more.
Thank you very much. One, I can start with the single-use plastic. As a regulator, we are very, I want to use the word strict. As per the accreditation and also the oncoming classification criteria under the EAC, we are encouraging and we will be taking the aspects of plastic a bit higher. We will be encouraging all the facilities, hotels or tourism facilities to use glass. So it's one of the, I will say, it's one of the criteria that we'll be looking at. And that is driven by the fact that other than being classified as in terms of star rating, the topmost classification criteria is the eco rating. So that one I will answer in both Patrick, also in terms of what you are doing in sustainability. We have come up with now the highest standard. If you get a 5-star, we will also be looking at eco rating at the topmost rating. And that will encourage all the hotels or tourism facilities to push through all the sustainable means of doing business to ensure that they go they go towards or they move towards getting the eco rating. So those two questions, I will answer them as that. The best is that we are looking forward to awarding some of the best practices in terms of sustainable practices across the tourism sector, an eco rating award, which will be coming up during the classification exercise. Thank you very much. As I leave, I want to encourage and thank all of you for turning up for this MKTE 2024 Expo. Man, I'm glad that majority of us are very young people. We are in the same age bracket. Most likely I'm slightly older, which tells me that tourism is now moving towards the young generation. I don't want to say the Gen Z, but I can see the Gen Z are well represented in the room. So I want to thank all of you. Let's travel. Let's take that photo and you post. And I am very, very sure KTB will be rewarding all those who will give their stories, which will be sold all over the world. Asanteni sana. God bless you.
Kindly let's have a group photo with the presenters for this session before he leaves. The presenters, kindly come up front. I'll introduce them later. We just need to take a photo, then the Director General can leave. We can appreciate him as he leaves. Thank you very much. So ladies and gentlemen, we have had the introduction for this session about short-term rentals. What we commonly call in Kenya as Kenyans, we call it Airbnb. Sindio hivyo? But Airbnb, as the Director General has clarified, is just a platform, isn't it? A platform just like Expedia, Booking.com, and so many others. So, but all those facilities that you find in those platforms, they are basically short-term rentals. And after that wonderful introduction, so we are going to have, actually that is the theme for this session. We are talking about those platforms, short-term rentals, and what has technology done. So we are basically continuing with the previous. So we have the next presenter. Now we are going into purely academia. We are going to listen to papers. People have done research on various areas. And the first presenter we will have is Dr. Rita Wairimo. And Dr. Rita Wairimo is going to make a presentation on content analysis of website disclosure of sustainability initiatives and practices by chain hotels and resorts in Kenya. So Dr. Rita has 15 minutes to make a presentation. So kindly, ladies and gentlemen, I would urge that we write our questions or note them down for each presenter. Then after the three presenters are done with their presentations, we can take the questions to save time. So Dr. Rita, karibu sana.
Good afternoon. I want to acknowledge my co-author. Kindly, Dr. Mugo, wave to the audience. She will be assisting with the question. To request the gentleman at the control to project the first presentation. So I'm a lady of few words from the City of Champions. Karibuni to the City of Champions, the newest city in the country. And I'm from Moi University, and my co-author is from Kenyatta University. And I think it was Dennis. Dennis, kindly. So as we wait for the projection, our research was short. It's still continuing, and it is about analyzing websites of eco-rated establishments. And so there it is. And we used content analysis as a research methodology. So ours is more of academic, and we looked at what the websites disclose in terms of sustainability. And the reason is websites are public, are for public consumption. So we were asking ourselves, what are websites saying about sustainability of these establishments, especially the eco-rated establishments? Usually, as we have also listened to the previous presenters and as well as industry practitioners, we've discovered that sustainability is getting a lot of attention. The concept of sustainability, how are we taking care of the environment, how are we taking care of society, how are we taking care of the economy, it's really taking center stage in many discussions all over the world, even in the academic circles. So you find that there are many sustainability tools that have been used, and I think the Director General of TRA has also mentioned about regulating how establishments are handling sustainability issues. So you find that at the moment we have many tools where we have eco-labels, we have certification schemes, among others, including ISO standards, and I'm sure the upcoming standards from the regulator. So you find that those existing are usually voluntary. You voluntarily enter into those schemes and they guide your operations. So for those establishments that have been certified by those sustainability tools, we have eco-labels being done or being given, and they use different media to communicate to their audience, to the stakeholders, about those initiatives that they are doing. And one of the media that is mostly used has been the internet through the websites. And the websites have been used as a preferred media because of its wide reach. It's public in that you don't have to belong to a certain community to access a website, and you can access it from anywhere without, for example, for Facebook, you have to be in Facebook to know what the people have, or organizations are posting on Facebook and other social media platforms. But for the internet, so long as you have the internet, the website, sorry, you can access them. Next slide, please. So Ecotourism Kenya, a membership organization in Kenya, runs an eco-rating scheme since 2002. And what we see is that Ecotourism Kenya recognizes, or organizations apply to Ecotourism Kenya to be eco-rated based on their sustainability journey and initiatives. So we have 3 categories of eco-labels in by Ecotourism Kenya. There is bronze, which is the lowest, silver, and then gold certification, which is the highest certification eco-label that you can get. So we looked at the websites of those establishments that have been given those eco-rating certifications by Ecotourism Kenya. Next slide, please. So scholars have explained reasons why you need to disclose what you are doing as an establishment. So you find that there is the concept of greenwashing, where you give stories, we are helping the orphans, we are planting trees, but you are not giving figures. So as a proof of you doing sustainability or engaging in sustainability, you need to disclose the exact aspects that you are doing as an organization. And this will help you to move away from being labeled as greenwashing, or somebody who is a watermelon, green on the outside but red on the inside. So disclosure is a way of running away from the greenwashing issue. Disclosure is also a great marketing tool that you are able to tell the world, this is what we are doing in terms of sustainability and all that. And also disclosure is essential for sustainable development, in that, as we all know, we are now at the age and times when we are supposed as an organization or as a world to move towards sustainable development. And therefore, for you to move with the rest, you need to disclose what exactly you are doing. And another aspect about disclosure of information is awareness creation on sustainability, and also increased visibility of your establishment. So those are the reasons why disclosure is important, and there are theories that have been developed by scholars all over to show the need for disclosure. However, as we all know, when you tell the world what you are doing, there are people who may do, or who may use that information for negative purposes. So as establishments disclose, they have been advised by various scholars and also practitioners that you need to be careful about what you are disclosing, because you have competitors, you have disgruntled employees, and others who may use that information negatively. Next slide, please. Sorry. No, we are not yet at the conclusion. So I think I've explained about the next one, the next one, next one. Yes, so why this study? I had explained earlier that we set up to find out what are establishments disclosing in their websites in terms of sustainability. And the reason why is that we, after finding out from the various published materials, we discovered that there was limited empirical evidence of eco-rated establishments and their disclosure or what information they were telling the world about sustainability. And so therefore we set up to analyze the information that has been disclosed in the websites of eco-rated establishments, as indicated earlier by Ecotourism Kenya, based on 3 pillars of sustainability, that is environmental, the socio-economic, as well as cultural aspects. And the aspects analyzed or the aspects established were guided by the Ecotourism Kenya guidelines, the Global Sustainable Tourism Council, and the Global Reporting Initiative guidelines on what establishments need to report about in terms of sustainability. Next slide, please. So you find that in terms of the methodology, it was more of a descriptive study and a census of all the 76 eco-rated establishments was done. The content analysis technique was used as both for data collection and for analysis. And a research instrument was developed which had categories, subcategories, as well as units of analysis based on the 3 bodies that I've indicated, or guidelines indicated: the Ecotourism Kenya, the Global Reporting Initiative, as well as the Global Sustainable Tourism Council guidelines. And the websites were analyzed, and a dichotomous approach was used to measure or to record for each establishment what was disclosed and what was not disclosed for each of the aspects or subcategories of items that were under analysis. Next slide, please. Next. So that's a diagrammatic representation of the eco-rated establishments by region. As we can see, only 5 regions are represented, or in terms of eco-rating, only 5 regions have been eco-rated or have applied for eco-rating. We have Masai Mara region accounting for the highest, followed by Laikipia and Samburu, then Savo, Coast, and the least was the North Rift region that included even Naivasha and the rest. So next slide, please. So in terms of the types of establishments that were eco-rated, the lodges and the tented camps made the highest percentage at 82%, with hotels making only 18%. Next slide, please. Then in terms of eco-rating award, bronze had the least, and majority were gold rated, meaning that majority had the highest level of certification. Next slide, please. Then in terms of affiliation, we have individual establishments making the least percentage, with majority of the eco-rated facilities being members of a group or chain affiliated. Next slide, please. Then in terms of disclosure, those are the figures. I may not go through all of them, but the aspects that we looked at was disclosure of water conservation strategies, energy management, waste management, mitigation of environmental impacts, climate change, issues of environmental protection initiatives, protection of threatened species, and partnerships for the environment. Next slide, please. Then in terms of socio-economic, we looked at issues of local employment creation, community health and safety, issues of education support, staff training, purchase from local supplies, among others. Next are the cultural aspects. We have issues of cultural preservation initiatives, respect for culture, sale of products, preservation of sites, and information on cultural heritage, among others. So those were the issues or aspects that were looked at. So you have seen the percentages of the responses. And to conclude, based on those percentages, we find that the establishments disclosed what they were doing in terms of those 3 pillars of sustainability. And we find that from the findings, the information, once you get into the websites, you don't, for most establishments, you don't see reports on sustainability being explicitly displayed. What you see are rates, are how to make a booking, among others. So in the home page, you don't see that information in most establishments. You have to go to the other subsidiary pages of the establishment's website. So it takes time for a visitor to those websites to actually see their sustainability initiatives. Another issue that we noted is that most visitors to those websites, if you are not patient enough to probe, to check in, then you may not see exactly the initiatives or the outputs that they have in terms of sustainability. And what those results also indicate is that the socioeconomic aspects were less disclosed by establishments. So they will, the most aspects that were disclosed were in terms of environmental and also in terms of the cultural. But socioeconomic aspects received very minimal attention. So next slide, please. So what are we saying is the way forward? We need establishments to make sustainability information easily accessible. Once you open their homepage, we need a section that is talking about sustainability. For most of the for some establishments, they had even on the homepage, they have a section labeled sustainability, where if you click now, you will see aspects that they have been engaging in or the outcomes in terms of their initiatives. So we are recommending establishments as they set up their websites, sustainability to be among the top, where in the homepage, where if you are talking about your rates, if you are talking about us, then talk about sustainability as a key issue. Then we also noted that few establishments were actually linking, or none had linked to the Ecotourism Kenya website. But if you go to the Ecotourism Kenya website, they have a lot of information about each establishment. But when you visit the establishment's website, they have less about Ecotourism Kenya and about the eco-rating. So that can also improve the visibility of the sustainability initiatives. Then there is also need for further research in terms of, as we saw, only 76 establishments in Kenya are eco-rated. So where are the rest? So Ruth, how many hospitality establishments do we have in Kenya? And out of those, only 76 are bold enough to tell the world that we are doing sustainability initiatives. So that is a very small number. So we are saying that we need to find out why are establishments not going for eco-rating. As we've seen, it's an important issue. Why are they not going? Why are few establishments willing to go out there and engage in sustainability and tell the world that they are doing it? So thank you very much, and thank you for listening.
Thank you, Dr. Rita. We can appreciate her again. Dr. Rita is a lecturer at Moi University, Department of Tourism and Hospitality. Now let's agree. I know we are a bit tired because the session has been quite long since morning, but we have only 2 more presentations left. But I can see some people who are agreeing. They were agreeing with the presenter unknowingly. Do you know how to agree unknowingly? Huh? Yes, I can see they are waking up now. Please, let us maybe stand up for a minute and stretch. Let's stand up. Stretch kidogo. Stretch a bit and look at your neighbor. Please don't hit your neighbor as you stretch. Look at your neighbor now. Look at your neighbor. Tell them you're looking good. Better than yesterday. And tomorrow, you will shine. You will take care of the environment so that the future generations will have resources or they will have the same environment. Those ones who have not stood up, I hope you will not be agreeing unknowingly. So let's sit down. Thank you very much. Kindly, for you to access these papers that are being presented and more information about the presenters, kindly scan the QR code. The ICT people will project. I saw it being projected here. So once you scan the QR code, you will have the book of abstracts. Why are we doing this? There's somebody first who asked about something on sustainability. Just to add something to what Rita has presented, the regulator will be implementing a project after the classification program. I was saying after the classification program, the regulator will be implementing a project on decarbonizing Kenya's tourism sector, and we'll get much more information about that in the afternoon presentation. So please make sure you're here right on time at 2 p.m. That's when we'll be starting. And we'll also be having practical aspects from the industry on how to develop a climate smart and a climate resilient tourism sector. So our next presenter is Geoffrey Riungu. Kindly come up front. And Geoffrey Riungu is talking about Airbnb, a brand or a product category. Probably by the time he's done with this presentation, we'll be able to know. So is Airbnb a brand or product category? Thank you very much. Karibu sana, Geoffrey.
Thank you, moderator. So I'd like to start off the presentation if the tech people are able to present or project it. So I'm talking about Airbnb, and thankfully the Director General of TRA has already laid the foundation for me as I walk through this term that we have used, and he rightly said that we've been using it loosely. So that's the foundation of what I want to talk about today. So next slide, please. So before I go ahead, I would like to recognize the co-authors of this. They're not here with us today, but they thought it wise to send me and be able to share with you what we have. So next slide, please. I'll start off by describing what is a brand and what is a product category, because this is actually the piece that ties in what we are saying Airbnb is being used loosely. So a brand, you can actually describe it as anything that is distinctive. It can be a name, it can be a term, it can be a symbol that you identify a product or a service against somebody else's product or service, okay? And then a product category, it's basically a group of similar products that share related characteristics. So I can give an example. Let's say the domestic air travel or transport sector. The service or product category for that is that label, like the domestic airline sector or transport sector. Then the brands that fall in there can be Skyward, Safari Link, Jumbo Jet, okay? I hope we can distinguish what a brand and what a product category is. Next slide, please. So Airbnb, we're already familiar with this, hopefully, but if you're not, at least you will be able to know what it is. So this is one of the most transformative technologies that we've had in the hospitality industry. It's basically a peer-to-peer platform whereby the guests are connected with the property owners or the hosts, the people who have the rooms to be able to rent out to people who want the rooms. And Airbnb has grown in leaps and bounds. And according to the latest data, it has hosted over 1.5 billion people across the world. And it's bringing a lot of revenue and also disrupting how hospitality is run. Next slide, please. So we can ask ourselves, why do you want to share your property? Obviously, the main response will be to get a source of income. It can be both primary or it can be a secondary income. But we have seen in other economies that that is not the only driving factor. We have things to do with loneliness. There are people who are retirees, they're empty nesters, and sometimes they actually don't have people to interact with. This gives them a chance to know additional people, know about them, have somebody to connect with. So social interaction can be one other reason. Another reason could be, let's say you get a job somewhere in a different country or a different town. So you don't want to sell your property. And you don't want to give it to your brother because maybe you know your brother's behaviors. So you want to keep it secure and you decide to rent it out or put it on Airbnb. So that's also another thing why people get into Airbnb. Also, it is a relatively low risk in terms of getting into entrepreneurship because, I mean, you're just letting out a house and you can be able to hone your skills, entrepreneurial skills, as you work in a low-risk environment, not unlike when you are maybe starting a whole business, setting up a shop somewhere. So this is relatively low risk. Thank you. About a picture on, or the context about Airbnb and the impact it has, South Africa is actually leading the way in terms of the hosts' revenue that they are generating. And Kenya is also in that picture. So Kenya is doing pretty well. The data is about 2018 because that's when I think Airbnb released those ones. They've not really released other details for the East African market. But Airbnb is a big thing because in 2027, what is Kenya going to host? Hopefully, if we build a stadium that is allowed by the federation. I can see somebody already mumbling. The African Cup of Nations. So do you think the current hospitality accommodation space can handle all these people? Probably not. So Airbnb is actually an option for this. So it's a big deal. Next slide, please. So some of the controversies about Airbnb, and is it a good thing, is it disrupting how we operate, can actually be visible from other research that has come out. It has disrupted the traditional accommodation sector. And here we are talking about hotels, the normal hotels, and the results are a bit fragmented. So for example, you find in developed spaces like Austin, Texas, they say that the penetration rate of Airbnb has actually saw a 10% decline in hotel income. And we also see in the case of Morocco, which last year recorded 10% increase in tourist arrivals coming into that country compared to the previous year, but they actually reported that the classified establishments received 5% lower bookings. So it means these people are going to these short-term rental spaces. Next slide, please. Talking about it being fragmented, there are others who are saying there's no much impact. And you find a city like San Francisco says they have not seen any much impact. But you find places like Ghana, when they interviewed hotel managers, they said, actually, we don't see them as a threat, but those managers are actually coming from 2-star rated hotels and above. But those who see Airbnb as a threat are actually in the budget hotel accommodation sector. Next slide, please. So what we were investigating is basically what we had. Why are we using, or how did Airbnb become so loosely connected to short-term rental? It's actually taking over that term of short-term rental, as the DG said. So that's what we wanted to investigate in this study. We wanted to find out from the proprietors, the owners of these hotels, Airbnb, sorry, and also other short-term accommodation spaces, what is their view of this term Airbnb? Can it be a brand, if you remember what we described a brand is, or is it a term that now is synonymous with that sector of short-term rentals? Next slide, please. So to base this, we used a theory. Because we're in academia, we have to ground it on something. So we used the customer-based brand equity theory. And that one was to help us explain what makes a brand to be strong. And some of the implications is what we'll come and see in the next few slides. But basically, brand equity is the incremental value you get from having a name, a brand name. So just having that name can actually give you something elevated. Not to be confused with brand value, which is something totally different, but it's not worth discussing in this forum. Next slide, please. So for brand equity, the main component is brand knowledge. And brand knowledge is actually subdivided into 2 aspects or components. And this is brand awareness and brand image. And combined together, that's when we get actually brand equity. Next slide, please. So this particular study that we conducted was done in Eldoret City, the latest city that we have in our country. And we used interviews. It's purely qualitative. So we went out and just got interviews. And how did we go out? We used snowballing. So just to give you a context, why we use snowballing is that when we were actually collecting this data, this is that same period where we had a maniac going around and assaulting women in Airbnbs. So that backlash led to TRA setting up these registrations that they wanted to do. Now for us on the other side, finding respondents to actually answer our question also became an issue because nobody wants to come and say, I'm operating a short-term rental. So we used snowballing, which basically means that you find somebody who is already operating and they'll refer you to somebody else and the cycle continues. So we ended up having 10 participants who were willing. And as we were actually going through the data collection process, we actually reached saturation right about 9 participants, but we did an extra one just for 6. Next slide, please. So to the findings, what did we find out? So we found out from the people we actually interviewed, 9 out of 10 of them were actually running this business, who were actually running these businesses were female. And because they also run a network on WhatsApp, whereby they are able to communicate with each other. If there is a referral, they can make a referral. We actually asked them, so in that WhatsApp, how many, if you can know the gender of those people who are in there, how many are female? And the vast majority of them were female. And the other thing is that we found that those who are running those places were actually co-owners with their spouses, but the people who are predominantly running the show were actually the female. Thank you. Next slide. So for the people who actually listed on Airbnb, 7 out of 10 of them were actually using Airbnb and Booking.com. So we had other participants in the study who were actually not even listed on these apps or these platforms. And 3 out of 10 of those participants actually had a background in the service industry. So a majority of people running these Airbnbs actually do not have a background in the service industry. For example, the people we interviewed, I remember one was an engineer at Kenya Power, another person was having an electrical shop somewhere, somebody else was in a NGO, another was a nurse. So we didn't have people who actually are in the hospitality sector running these Airbnbs. And the main reason why they were doing this is that they were trying to get additional income. In fact, we had one participant say they built a house for themselves, but started this Airbnb venture and decided to leave the house for Airbnb activities and actually go out and rent a place to stay. So that's how lucrative this space can be. Next slide, please. So based on that model that I showed, the CBBE model, the customer-based brand equity model, we actually asked questions to deal with, are they familiar with this Airbnb thing? So we asked them, if you are given, let's say, logos, are you able to identify the correct logo? So just hit the next slide, please. You'll see the logo. So this is what we asked them. And pretty much all of them were able to see or identify the right logo, apart from one who did not know how the Airbnb logo looks like. But we also probed further to find if they understood what Airbnb is and what it does, and a vast majority of them actually knew what Airbnb is about. It's a platform that you use to connect the guests to the properties. Next slide, please. So we found that there was a high familiarity with Airbnb, and that actually depicts a strong brand recognition. So we also asked them if they're able to recall what Airbnb or any other platform that we are saying is in the short-term accommodation space, if they're able to identify which is the best or the one that they know. And all of them said Airbnb. Next slide, please. So we found that there is a strong brand image that Airbnb has made over the years, and that has helped them because now this term we are loosely using as Airbnb is as a result of that. And they actually entered the market very strongly in the initial stages. And the funny thing is that all the entrepreneurs that we asked when Airbnb came to Kenya, none of them actually had the right answer. Next slide. I'll just go to the next slide, please. So one of the main implications also of this study is that we extended that theory from brand awareness to brand image to another term called brand genericization. I hope I said it right because of my mother tongue influence. But this is whereby a term or a product, a brand, can actually be so big and it's become synonymous with the entire industry. And this is what we believe has happened to Airbnb. Next slide. So the participants said that, yes, we understand that this Airbnb is actually a brand, but it is also the brand category. And one of the participants actually said that, you know, when somebody is talking about, I'm looking for a lodging, it sounds so bad. It brings negative connotations. But when you say, I am looking for an Airbnb, you know, it sounds a bit better. So this term Airbnb is now generally accepted among these entrepreneurs. Thank you. Next slide. So generalization can actually destroy your brand. We're not saying Airbnb has been destroyed, but we have examples of that. Like that item there, you can see an escalator. Everybody knows it as escalator, but it was actually a trademark at one point. But now it's no longer owned by that company that actually trademarked it. The name escalator. It's now a common word. Anybody can use that word. But it used to be a trademark for a company called Otis Elevator. We have other examples as Aspirin. Another example that was not destroyed was Google. Because when you're looking for something, I will say, can you go to the internet and do what? Google, not search, right? I'll just say Google. So the same thing, but there was a legal process in 2017, and Google was able to retain its trademark. Otherwise, it would have been gone also. So in conclusion, what we are saying is that Airbnb has now become a noun and a verb, and this is actually cemented by what Airbnb themselves said when they responded when there was all that chaos when people were getting murdered in short-term rentals. So this is what we ended up with, the model. Brand awareness will lead to brand image, but also in special circumstances, we might find the brand also getting to another level we are calling genericization. So I'll stop there. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. We'll take just 2 questions, one for each presenter because of time. Then we move into another session. So any question, ladies and gentlemen? By a show of hands, anybody with a question? Yes?
Good afternoon. My name goes to Dr. Rita in the sense of content analysis. Out of the findings, she reported that only 76 institutions in the country are eco-rated. It's but by fact, the number of the hotels, maybe the TRI will give us how many are categorized from 2 stars to 5 stars. But my question to the Daktari, out of these 76 statistic was how was their dispersion around the country from maybe which regions are the majority of these hotels located? Thank you.
Thank you so much. What happens is that the Ecotourism Kenya eco-rating scheme is voluntary. So you apply for it and pay for it, then you get the eco-label. So probably that aspect of it being voluntary and attracting some payment makes it have less people or less establishments applying for it. So I'm not sure. Probably if the regulator comes in and makes it compulsory, we will have more establishments applying for eco-rating or having been forced to have an eco-rating where every establishment must engage in sustainability. From the results, you find that majority of the establishments, like I said, were lodges and tented camps, with hotels making a very small percentage. Also, majority were from the Masai Mara. The Masai Mara and Laikipia, Samburu regions had the highest number of establishments applying for that eco-rating and getting the eco-labels. Thank you.
Yes, there was a hand behind there. That's the last question for this session.
Good afternoon, everyone. So mine is with the Airbnb. So you touched on the rentals, but Airbnb also has experiences. So I was wondering if the survey was also done for experiences, which plays, I feel, crucial role in the tourism industry, because that's where also most travelers go to source for authentic activities to do around the country.
Thank you for that question. Our study was not extending to the experiences. And you're correct in saying that the experiences actually sway or can actually make into the decision-making process. And that can be another avenue for future research where you can do like text analysis to find out the impact of those reviews and also the experiences you're talking about. Thank you.
Thank you very much. A round of applause again for the two presenters. So this brings us to the end of this session, but just an announcement before I bring in Mr. Alex Tonoi. Lunch is served at the Safari Village, but it's on your bill. Please note. So Mr. Alex Tonoi, karibu sana to take over the next session.
Let's give them a round of applause, please. And thank you very much. Now, ladies and gentlemen, allow me to invite the CEO of the Kenya Tourism Board to come and give us a few remarks and also welcome you all. So, Madam June Chepkemei, welcome. Give a round. Madam June Chepkemei, welcome.
Our DG, who has been running this track, and ably so, our great partners who really supported this session. That's why we are here today. MasterCard, we truly, truly appreciate your support. Our amazing panelists that has done the job, the academia. First of all, I'm tempted to say let's start, because most of us know that I am extremely passionate about the academia. I truly, truly believe in the role that academia plays in economic transformation of any sector, and this particular sector is one of the sectors that has been promoted as a result of quality manpower that our academia has produced. Whenever you go out there and you are asked why Kenya, the first thing they'll tell you, it's the talent, it's the people, more so hospitable people. And the great students that are being trained in our hospitality industry have continued to be the reason we exist and the reason we excel. Simujipigie makofi. And therefore, having this conversation is extremely refreshing. I have read some of the abstracts, but I will read word by word all the papers that were presented. But beyond just presentation of papers, and again, Doreen, we committed to supporting the publishing of these papers in some of the credible journals so that it can add value to the policymakers and even inform us as we go forward. But one more thing that I believe we can do is to take them beyond publication to solutions that can help us begin to impact the sector. And so my suggestion would be we need to subject these papers into a proper hackathon. Sijui kama mmenielewa. Mnajua hackathon ni nini? Na watu hospitality mnajua hackathon ama hizo ni vitu za IT? Ebu Alex, I need to hear from one or two students kama wanaelewa hackathon. Ama sisi hospitality we don't hack. Nani anaelewa? There's a hand there.
Good afternoon. I'm not a student, but I'll try.
Wait, ngoja kwanza, student.
Okay, I'm a student.
Now you are a student.
Yeah, I'm a student. Yeah, so, but no, it depends the student of what.
Okay.
So a hackathon is basically for like from an IT perspective.
From an IT perspective.
Yeah, like people come together to try and penetrate a system.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Great. Thank you, student, for the time being. Any other? Any other? Tisujaribu. Great. It started with the IT sector where it was more of thinking through. Oh, there's one more hand. Huyo ni mwalimu ama mwanafunzi?
A student, a recent graduate, I'll say. So a hackathon is whereby also the students or the people, they attend a training, and after the training, they're able, so whereby they attend a training, and after a training, they are able to develop maybe a system and solutions to that, towards
Great.
whatever they have.
All right,
been trained
thank
on.
you. Thank you. when you want to hack a solution, it does not have to be technology-based. It can be really coming up. I saw that framework. How do we make it real? How do we convert those ideas to actual solutions that you can take to market, that you can have a product that you can take to the market and commercialize? Tumelewana? So we need to translate these ideas to solutions that can be commercialized. And for you to be able to do that, you bring different categories of expertise, those who have ability to think through technology solution, business, branding, product development, blah, blah, and you think through how to translate it to a real solution. The reason we are struggling in the continent, and specifically Kenya, to get jobs is we become so theoretical in everything we do. Once we've done the theoretical thinking, we stop at that. We need to take it from theoretical to practical solution to those challenges that you identified. In the papers that we presented, there were challenges, isn't it? And we even provided possible solutions, and we have recommendations. It doesn't need to stop there. How do we take it to the next level? Those that need to inform policy, can we write policy papers? Can we submit them to the policy makers? The policy maker number one is seated right here. But he will not read through a research paper because he's not adding to the body of knowledge. Him is supposed to support the private sector. The private sector is seated here and wondering, for me, I need the next big thing that I can commercialize. I can put resources here, but it is not ready. So once we hack it, then we are able to separate what goes to policymakers, and we actually take it through the policy influencing process. Those that need to go to the private sector as solutions that can be commercialized, we take it to that level. And those that need to go into publishing to add to the body of knowledge, we take it there. Tumelewana. And you'll realize that within a very short time, we'll have some jobs created. It can be 5, 10. It can be 5, 10 in the time being. But that is the kind of support we need to have as a country for us to create jobs. So how many of us are ready to take these ideas to solutions? So DG and our partners, we are agreeing that we are going to have an hackathon, a 24-hour end-to-end. Hakuna kulala. Hakuna kulala. You just sit, you think, you eat, you hack until we find solutions. Tumeelewana? We'll partner, we'll get that done. Doreen, Dr. Ruth, that's the next step. Sawa. Because honestly, I like the idea that you're able to define and say, now Airbnb is a synonym for rental, short stay rental, right? But what stops us as a country from coming up with a similar solution for our own facilities in the country? Has anybody stopped us? Hakuna. Sasa tukika and we think through that and we hack it, all of you will get jobs. Si mnatafuta kazi. Imagine even if I was to employ, how many are we in this room? We can't employ everybody, but we can sit together and create jobs ourselves. That's what I want us to do. From this track, we have to get jobs. Next year, Doreen and Dr. Ruth, we have to come and celebrate the jobs that were created out of these sessions. Are we ready? We have taken a step, and we have a concept note as KTB on how to encourage Kenyans to rent out their homes when they are not using it. Tumejenga ushago, tumeita dead capital. We know it is not. We are in the hospitality industry and we keep counting and saying, how many bed capacity do we have? We have bed capacity in every single home in Kenya, don't we? All we need is a platform. We need training to translate them to a product that the DG can license for commercial. And then that ordinary Kenyan who is working out of the country in Australia, in the US, in Middle East, who locks his home for 1-2 years, can begin to use that facility to make money. And in the process, you are managing it and you are earning a living. Si tufanye hivyo. Tutafanya, si ndio? Other than that, I was told to come here and appreciate the panelists, even as we set the tone for the next phase. So, ready for that? Aya, simu nipigie makofi. Ama mjapenda hiyo story? Iko sawa? Inajipa? Sawa.
At this juncture, I'd like to invite all the panelists who were here this morning. Please come in front. Dr. Ali, Madam, everybody please come. Dr. Ruth, and the panelists, please all come in front. We have a small token of appreciation for you from the Kenya Tourism Board. Please bring the bags in front. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Now, ladies and gentlemen, we've come